Hey, it's Abby, and I'm going to show you how to simplify a radical expression. Okay, so we have the cubed root of 24 as our expression, so let's break down 24. If we break down 24, it can go into 2 and 12, and then that 12 can be broken down into 2 and 6 can go down into 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are prime, so we can't go any further. Now that we have it broken up, we can put it back under the radical, which would be the cubed root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. You can write it also as the cubed root of 2 cubed times 3. Since you have a perfect cubed root, which is 2 cubed, then you can pull that out. You will have 2 times a cubed root of 3, so that would be your final answer because you can't break down 3 anymore and it's not a perfect cubed root, so you have to leave that under the radical. So your answer would be 2 times a cubed root of 3. One mistake people might make would be not bringing out the 2 cubed and just leaving it in there, so then it wouldn't be correct. Okay, multiplying radical expressions. To multiply a radical expression, you must have the same index. If you have the same index, then you first multiply the coefficients. After you multiply the coefficients, like for the first one, so 3 times 4 you get 12, and then you would multiply the radicands, so 5 times 6 would be 30. For number 1, your answer would be 12 to the cubed root of 30. And then for number 2, you would move down and you would multiply the coefficients and get negative 6. And then you'd multiply the radicands, giving you 56. And since you see that we have the same index of 4, so you just leave that there and don't do anything with it. So you would be left with negative 6 times the 4th root of 56. One mistake that you might have would just be multiplying incorrectly and just coming out with a complete wrong answer for your coefficient and your radicand. Okay, adding and subtracting radical expressions. You can only add or subtract radical expressions when they have the same radicand and index. So like for number 1, you can add these with no problem. You don't add the radicand, you only add the coefficients. So for number 1, you'd add 4 and 10 to get 14. You'd keep 2 as the radicand and 5 as the index. Your answer would come out to be 14 times the 5th root of 2. And for number 2, you have the same index and radicand, so you just subtract the coefficients. So 7 minus 4 would give you 3. Like I said, you have the same radicand, so you would just keep that at 5. So your answer would be 3 times the cubed root of 5. A common mistake people might make would be subtracting the radicands and would be adding or subtracting the radicands and not just the coefficients, because all you do is, for adding and subtracting, you work with the coefficients, not the radicands or the indexes. Changing a radical expression. It's very simple. The exponent under the radical will be the numerator, and the index is the denominator. So for number 1, you have 8, the 8th root of a to the 5th. 5 would go on top because it's under the radical, and 8 would go on the bottom because it is the index. So your answer would be a to the power of 5th eighths. And you have a rule. It would be the b root of x times a to the power of a equals x to the power of a over b. So it's always will be your rule. And so now going back to number 2, you have a fractional exponent, so you just do the opposite. The 1 would be with the 7 because it would be the numerator, and 2 would go as the index because it is the denominator. Your answer would be the square root of 7. A common mistake would be placing the numbers in the wrong spot, or having the numerator and denominator switched. Solving equations. To solve this equation, you just start off with, like you didn't have an exponent. You add 2 to both sides and be left with x to the 1/4 equals 7. To get rid of that 1/4, you raise each side to 4 to cancel out the 1/4 exponent. You will be left with x equals 7 to the 4th power, which would bring you down to x equals 2401. To check your answer, you would just go over and plug it in to the equation. So you have 2401 raised to the 1/4 power minus 2 equals 5. When you go to solve it or put it into your calculator, you see that you get 5 on both sides. So it is correct. A common mistake would be not canceling out the exponent on one side and not raising the other side to that power.